Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Janai and this is Karmic Fixer Tarot. And today I wanted to do a pull or throw some cards rather. I had a query about some discourse that I've been seeing a lot lately on the whole idea of the whimsical black girl and how whimsy, joy, being kind of an alt black girl has it's something that a lot of Black women lose in their youth. And I think there's a move to regain that. I've been doing a few readings lately on um, joy as defiance. Here in the US, we're living in fascism. No real two ways about it. And I'm seeing a lot of discourse online about joy as defiance. The regime not wanting us to have joy, and joy itself being nutritive, being something that you need to not only express yourself, but to help ground yourself. And I was really interested in the angle of the whole whimsical black girl. There's a lot of discourse online. I might do some links to it in my description. Just kind of the idea of how black women, black girls are discouraged from a young age to just be in their happy space, to embrace cutesiness, to embrace things that are maybe offbeat, off kilter, that just bring joy. And I think I experienced a little bit of that in my youth. That might be a tale for another time, a story time for another time, because I really wanted to just get into a reading. And I'm interested in how this doesn't necessarily have to be just Black women, but anybody who maybe, I guess for lack of a better way to say it, maybe somebody clipped their wings when they were younger. Maybe you had parents who kind of broke your spirit, or maybe the environment you grew up in, neighborhood, schools, maybe religion, even. Maybe you were in an environment that was very repressive that, stole your joy at every occasion, and you're looking to bring that back. So the angle I guess I was originally going with was, the whole whimsical black girl angle. But that also, I think, it's not just limited to, black children. Um, it's not limited to just black girls. I think, young black boys and young black men experience this to an extent also, or maybe not to an extent, they experience this. And, you're having to grow up very fast, or you're adultified because, your elders, your parents might think that's the best way to prepare you for a hard world, for hardship, for, you know, the anti blackness that we experience here in the US and that people experience abroad. And just kind of that idea of toughening you up, hardening you up so that you're ready for the outside world. Um, my personal opinion, I don't know if that does us any favors, and that kind of disconnects us, I think, from joy or from something within ourselves. I dare say disconnects us from our inner child. And there's a time when you grow up and you want to be able to reconnect with that or heal that as you get older. I don't know if you heard my cat outside my door. He's really loud. But anyway, I wanted to throw some cards. Now, actually, I'm getting into different methods of cartomancy, and I dare say different methods of really, and this might be completely made up. I've seen a little bit of this online, but I'm curious about something that I call unomancy. So this is really kind of offbeat, I think, in keeping with the idea of how to reconnect with one's whimsical side. I want to see if I can do some divination with my Uno cards here. And if this gives a reading that doesn't quite resonate, maybe it will, maybe it won't. I might do this with just regular tarot cards and maybe even Lenormand. But we'll start here, and maybe this will be a multi-video series, and hopefully this will be something that resonates. So I'm going to, I know if you see other maybe tarot readers on YouTube, there's a ritual that a lot of them have to call in spirit. Maybe they'll ring a bell and whatnot. I never do that because I always feel just kind of connected with source, spirit, whatnot anyway. Maybe I should ritualize calling in spirit, but mostly I just start shuffling and talking. So let's see. Spirit, how would one get back in touch with their whimsical side? How does one get back in touch with their inner child and return to a space of whimsy? How is one able to tap into that inner reserve of joy, goofiness, just exuberance? How does one call on that or tap into that if it's deep down in them? So I'm doing a little shuffle with my Uno deck. I think I have a method of interpreting the cards as they fall. And as the cards come up, if that's something that you're into, if you have any interpretations that might be different from what come up, let me know in the comment section. I've only tried this once. Yeah. Um, and it was kind of in the similar vein, but kind of like how I am tonight. It was I'm kind of waiting till late in the evening to do it. And the last time I tried it, I don't know if I was in a good enough headspace for it. I did post that video up on this channel, so I'm more than welcome to check it out if you like. But yeah, so Spirit, how does one reconnect with joy? How does one get back in touch with their inner whimsical side, their inner child? What are some suggestions? What's some advice that you have for us? I'm going to draw 3 cards. I like to use a spread that I found. It's known as the Advice from the Universe sort of spread. Usually it's just 3 cards, and each card, of course, has its different position and what that position is interpreted as. So I'm going to start. Now this is a stop card, and it's a wand, or it's in the red suit, which I take to mean as the wands. Stop. Or skip. Would this be a skip? I might skip this and come back to it. I don't know how this is going to pan out. Let's see. Now 4 of red. Now my reds, again, I read those as maybe wands, or if you're doing, or in the sense of traditional cartomancy, these would be the clubs. And 4 is a really interesting number. I see 4 as a number of stability. It's a number of, I'd say a number of harmony, number of stability, just kind of groundedness. Or in its shadow side, it's a number of stagnation, being stuck. So 4 is interesting. I think a lot of times I'll dwell on one card before I flip the other ones. But I want to go ahead and see, and I might need to give myself a moment to see what the spread says. So this was the in the first position, card 1, and usually in my advice from the universe spreads, advice from the universe, yeah, advice from the universe spreads. Card 1 is a what I need to know. I guess just kind of a home truth, just a basic sort of common sense. And I need to maybe dwell on this one a little bit. But position number 2 is usually a new perspective. And a lot of times in my readings, it's a new perspective, not necessarily something that I would consider a massive revelation, but perhaps something that's a new perspective for me, or a way that I hadn't thought of something, which, when I think on it, actually makes perfect sense. So position 2, perspective on joy, getting in touch with your whimsical side. Maybe this being the red suit. If this is a new perspective, I think when you think of joy, when you think of fun, when you think of just kind of exuberance, sometimes you might think of a sense of kind of a chaos, a sort of unruliness when it comes to maybe joy, or, I guess play or whatnot. But I think if this is a card of stability in the red suit, the suit that I think of as it corresponds with say wands in standard tarot, for example, that suit, and I guess this suit, um, would be the suit of passion, creativity, expressiveness. And this could be a sort of groundedness in that expressiveness. You know, there's play, there's joy, but it doesn't have to be chaotic. It can be it can be really grounding. It can actually be channeled into something that can be stabilizing, something that can be controlled, I think. So a good perspective on, you know, reconnecting with your inner child or your inner joy is that it can be something that's very stabilizing. It doesn't have to be chaotic. It doesn't have to be immature. It's it can be very, it can be something that can be channeled into something really meaningful. And I think when you do get in touch with your joy, with your exuberance, with the thing that kind of lights your fire, it's not about goofing off. It's not something that's necessarily unserious, even though it can have an unserious side. It can be a goofy side or whatnot. But that actually feeds you, I think, in your grounded work, in your life's work, in your more serious endeavors. So you can draw the strength that you need to go about the world and go about being stable and mature and, you know, I don't know, fully realized in your endeavors. Well, yeah, maybe. I'm kind of going with the flow as the words come to me. I'll probably track back to this as more comes up. So this is a new perspective, I think. Um, Joy, your inner child, your inner exuberant self, your wellspring of joy can have a stabilizing effect on you. So that is position number 2. Now, position 3, in my advice from the universe spreads, those tend to be action steps or something practical that you can do to implement or tie together the advice from the reading. So let's see. So we have the 2 of blue. And the way that I interpret the blue cards, I think they correspond with the cups in tarot or with the, let's see, let me think about cartomancy for a second. Let's see, the hearts. So just kind of the suit of love, suit of relationships, suit of emotion, that suit of just kind of, I guess it's passion, but in a more personal, more sort of a more relational way. And so this just might be a call to find opportunities to be in community, find opportunities to find like minded people, getting to, coming outside of your head a little bit. And this is very personal for me. I have a tendency to kind of isolate, but wanting to get in touch with your inner joy is maybe kind of making the effort to find your people, making the effort to find your tribe, making the effort to belong. And that's the thing about belonging. That was always something that I struggled with. I always felt like you had to wait for a special invitation for belonging. I always feel like belonging needs to be extended to you. And I'm learning that that's not necessarily the case. The thing with belonging is you have to want to belong and you have to take the initiative to do so. And I think starting at the 2, this is the opportunity to start small. Um, you know, Maybe a one-on-one connection, build from 2. So this is an opportunity to grow. It's almost like you haven't sowed the seed yet for, you know, building a community, but you're taking small steps. So this could be taking small steps to regain your joy. This could be something as simple as, you know, exploring a exploring a hobby that you used to have, for example. And you maybe don't have a whole lot of time to devote to it, but just kind of getting your toes wet, just sort of finding little ways to either get into community with others or maybe get in touch with yourself maybe first before you have, if you don't quite have the nerve to branch out yet. Really kind of get in touch with what it is that what it is that you love. Find ways to belong to maybe organizations that encourage, the thing that you're into. An opportunity to meet like-minded people, and that can be small steps. Maybe you could start online, start, you know, branching out into like maybe your identity group or an affinity group or a group of people who maybe share a hobby with you. I think this card represents connection, starting small, whether that's connection with others or maybe you need to connect with yourself a little bit. If you don't know who your people are, maybe start by thinking about who you would want your people to be or who you are. And from there, you might get a better idea of who you align with or, the types of things that you align, types of beliefs you align with. And from there, you'll find your people. This is something I'm still this is something I'm still learning. I've started getting into divination, tarot and things like that. So I found online communities that you can practice tarot readings. You can connect with other tarot and cartomancy enthusiasts, and that's kind of a baby step for me, which I hope to expand upon as my interest and as my knowledge base grows in tarot and cartomancy. So this is an action step. Find ways to connect. Start small. Two can multiply and etc. So find ways to connect with others wherever you're at. Now, this I need to mull over a little more. And in the interest of transparency, it has been a very long time since I played Uno. So I am not entirely sure how I would interpret this card. And this isn't a thing to know. Maybe the thing I need to know is a little bit more about Uno, what Uno represents. Um, so I'm going to mull over this, or if you have an idea of what this represents, if you're somebody who's into Uno and what this means. So far, though, this definitely feels like it's related to passion, since it's in the red suit. This looks like a lose a turn sort of thing, but I think I might consult my deck to get a little more information about exactly what this card means, and maybe from there that'll give me a better idea on how to interpret it. And that's crazy. I guess I should understand Uno before I try and do cartomancy with it. But yeah, I'm gonna think this over, and I think I'm also going to draw a bottom of the deck card. So we'll see. Okay, I'm back. First, my cat was crying, so I had to give him something to eat, and I also mulled over this card some more, and I should completely know this by now. You know, skip card seems quite obvious now, and just in a little bit of divination, just kind of, um, talking that talk in divination. I think this represents the thing to know is that there are probably all sorts of things that people, all sorts of blocks, all sorts of things that cause somebody to say, skip the thing that they're passionate about. You know, Anybody who has trouble reconnecting with their inner child or who's lost touch with their whimsical side, that's usually never, you know, a choice. It's usually maybe something that you lose sight of as a protection for yourself, or, maybe you just haven't had that side of you nurtured. And so I think there's kind of a wounding with losing touch with your inner child. And it's actually, pretty sad. It's like a block or a stopper, or I guess quite literally, you've had to bypass that part of yourself, that part of your soul, that part of your heart. And it's really a sad thing. And just kind of losing touch with the thing that you're passionate about, losing touch with maybe things you were interested in as a child that maybe people told you was a stupid thing to be interested in. Maybe you wanted to be an artist, or maybe you wanted to go into a field that maybe you didn't have access to, or some other passion that you had to let go of for whatever reason. So I think in this this is the card in the first position, the thing to know. It's very helpful. It can be pretty painful, but it's also helpful to maybe explore why you had to lose touch with this side of you in the first place. What was it maybe about your environment that caused you to let it go? Maybe the lack of nurture that you had in, exploring this interest. And it's worth getting to know. It's worth kind of understanding that about yourself. Um, it's not a thing where you have to, I dare say, wallow or whatnot. Um, might not be a thing you have to dwell on why you had to let go of this passion, but it is something that's worth acknowledging. And once you acknowledge it, you can begin to nurture the things that you're passionate about. And I think acknowledging it helps bring you to a place of stability. You can make peace with maybe you didn't have access to the thing you loved, or your passion was belittled, or life came along and you couldn't pursue the thing you were most passionate about, or you couldn't, you know, it cost you your joy for whatever reason. And once you acknowledge and make peace with that, I think this puts you on a journey to find stability in that joy. It helps you to reconnect with the thing that gives you joy. Maybe you're in a safe place now where you can sing as loud as you want, or you can paint, or you can maybe go back to school and start studying that thing you wanted to study. Or you could find a way to pursue this once you're in a once you're in a peaceful place. So the thing to know is making peace with whatever it is that stole your joy, that stole your whimsy, that made you bypass or, skip that part of yourself. And I hope this is something that resonates with you. I'm still kind of new to Unomancy. Um, I think it's a thing. I feel like I made it up, but I don't think I think there are people who actually do cartomancy with Uno cards, and I'm still kind of learning my way through it. So if that's something that you are adept at, and you get a different interpretation from these cards, I'd love to see them in the comment section. And as I like to do, I think I will pull in the bottom of the deck card here. So let's see what we have. Okay. Another two. We have the suit of green. And my interpretation is that this is let me stop and think. This, originally I was thinking the suit of green would be maybe for pinnacles or whatnot, or diamonds in standard cartomancy, pinnacles again in traditional tarot. But this makes me think more of swords or spades. I draw from the fact that we've got like the triangle, the inverted triangle, kind of the pointiness of it. So to me, that reminds me of swords. So I interpret this as kind of the sword suit or the spade suit, the suit of mindset. Um, it almost feels like, and I used to have trouble with this type of advice that says that it's a choice to be happy, that joy is a choice, but it really is. And that sort of advice can kind of feel a little judgmental, like if you're really dealing with hardship, a real suffering or real pain. That's not a pain that someone would actively choose for themselves. I mean, if you're really in a place of hardship and it's hard to find your way out of it, it might not seem it might seem counterintuitive, or it might seem a bit judgmental to think that you're just making a choice to not be happy, that you're somehow not choosing happiness, as if, you know, that's a door number one or door number two, and you're actively not choosing the thing that would make you happy. But there is, I've come to realize that it is kind of a choice. And as hard as that might be to hear, that, if you're not where you need to be, it's because you're choosing not to be where you want to be. And I think the main thing that this maybe suggests that you do, or that, that I do, um, or anybody that this resonates with, think about why it is you do the things you do. Are there any underlying beliefs, any limiting beliefs that inform your actions? Are there is there a place that you're at that you think you don't really have a choice but to be at that place? And if you're feeling like you don't have a choice, maybe examine what little choices you might have. Maybe you're living in an apartment that you're living in, maybe the best place that you can afford, for example, and you want to live somewhere else, maybe somewhere that's more walkable, or somewhere that's closer to work, or somewhere that's just more pleasant. And you're at a place where we technically don't have a choice. Maybe you don't make as much money, for example, or maybe you're in a place that you don't want to be in, but you don't see how you can be anywhere else. I think this card represents taking control over things that you do have control over. Maybe the things that seem, since this is a two, I think it's starting small, making little choices here and there. Even if the only thing you can do, and I guess since this is my kind of swords slash spades suit, the suit that's the kind of mindset, communications, thought processes, analysis, maybe this is a card that starts with mindset. If you can't change anything else, if you can't change where you live, if you can't change your job, if you can't change other things materially in your life, you can always change your mind. And maybe that's a little easier said than done, but it might be the thing that you have at your disposal that you can start to change. And I've found this in my life. This does, it might seem a little kind of woo woo or whatnot. And obviously, if you're on this channel, there's probably a side of you that's into the woo woo. I'm definitely very woo woo, but it starts with your mindset. And I'm still learning this myself. I'm not a manifestation guru. There's plenty of people who are all into how to manifest this, that, and the third. The thing I'm learning about manifestation is that you're not necessarily going to think your way to someplace better without doing, without putting your thoughts into action. And that comes later. I think the first thing is to start tackling your thoughts, maybe beliefs that keep you down, maybe beliefs that were probably put on you, probably foisted on you by your environment, maybe by your upbringing, and start attacking those, little by little. The sometimes the only thing that you have at your exposure to change is your mind. Change your idea or your thought, or make a different choice. Start small. And I think this can multiply into more opportunity, multiply into a mindset that will start propelling your actions into ways that will help you start to get back in touch with your joy. So I hope this doesn't sound a little too cliche. And I'll probably, as I always do, I always dwell on my readings, after the fact. This is just kind of an in the moment, in real time reading as I'm recording, and more things will open up for me. And hopefully, if this resonates with you, maybe more things will open up to you as well. If you see any of these cards, again, if you get a different interpretation than I'm putting out there, I'd love to see it in the comments. And, yeah, this was my little spread on how to get back in touch with your whimsical side. Um, this is actually pretty surprising. Some of the parts, I've heard a lot, the whole mindset thing. And again, Maybe that feels a little judgmental when people tell you, well, you can, just change your mindset. It takes a lot of work. So I'm not going to say it's as easy as all that, but it might be the easiest thing that one has at their disposal to change. So this might be a good start. And as this is the bottom of the deck card, this tends to be a card that I think ties things together, or maybe an underlying energy of the card, or sometimes it's the underlying energy of why I asked a specific question. But I think in this case, this is an underlying kind of throughput that might be helpful in getting you back into your, getting us rather back into our space of whimsy, space of joy. Usually, I thought I heard, I live in a very kind of loud place. But anyway, when I had the idea to do this particular spread, or when I have an idea to post a video, usually it starts out as just kind of a question that I have for spirit. And, wanting to get into the habit of posting more, sometimes I feel like maybe if I ask this question and the post the reading, maybe this is something that not only will resonate with me, but will resonate with someone else, anybody who happens onto this video. So I hope that this resonates with you. And if this is your sort of thing, I would definitely appreciate a like. I'm not 100% sure how the algorithm works, but I think that does maybe help with the algorithm. A like would be great. And if you'd like more content like this, or if you're into this kind of content, please consider subscribing. And thank you so much for watching. And until I see you again, take care.